Welcome to the Yes You Can podcast, a soft place to land for fit pros and aspiring entrepreneurs looking for a motivational cheerleader who's been through it all and believes your best life is about being brave and tapping into your magic. Hi, I'm Hannah Pratt, an online coach and vulnerability queen. I'm here ready to share my experiences through grief, life, and finding my place on the podium to help you level up. So grab a latte and a notebook and get ready to be inspired through the Yes You Can podcast. Hello, good listeners. Welcome to the Yes You Can podcast. If you're listening for the first time, you're listening to my voice, and my name is Hannah at Hannah Rose Spin on Instagram. I'm doing these reintroductions every so often because I've been in this game and doing this long enough that some of my core listeners have moved on from being cycling coaches or being connected to me on Instagram. It's really cool to see actually this sort of evolution of people maybe signing up for one of my programs, learning how to be an instructor, and then, saying goodbye to that chapter. And so I know that I'm also having new friends come in, new followers, new listeners who are just starting their journey. And so if you are one of those folks or you haven't listened to a lot of the episodes in the archive, scroll back because there's so many good episodes. I actually need to hire somebody, I think, to go through some of those original gems between, one of the most listened to episodes ever, Christina Giroux, when I flew to Arizona and interviewed her at Power and Flow the same weekend that AARMY was there, which is very, very apropos because I'm interviewing somebody from AARMY today. Ryan Jones, one of my favorite podcasts on mindset and confidence and talking about comparison and how we as instructors can help ourselves through some mental health resets. Jordan Reichart at Healthy Bunhead, when we're talking about your body not being your business card, and also social media. I mean, there's just so many great guests. And I would say the solo episodes are pretty good too. But if you're an instructor who wants to increase your level up, as I say, fill classes, change lives, if you're somebody who's wanting to master your craft, this podcast is a really great episode. And I say that because it's not just me, it's so many other people who have contributed to it. If you are not on my email list, make sure that you join that. I send out playlists. I send out motivational quotes. I think just resources generally. And then, of course, whenever I'm doing live trainings, which I will be doing soon, you'll be the first to know. So I do free live trainings. And then, of course, I launch my live courses, Instructor Magic, Podium Prep for those who are aspiring instructors. And some, as I've hinted at before, we're going to be doing a new live training, a new live cohort for fit pros who want to create a business of their own, similar to how I have done. If you want to launch workshops, if you want to build a revenue stream where you get to impact more people off the podium and don't have to rely on teaching classes in order to do that, then this is going to be a program for you. And it's for established instructors or folks who have an established presence already. So if this is that could be me, or I've been thinking about that, then shoot me a DM or get on the wait list. The link is in the show notes. Today's guest, and we're getting right into it, I have known online for a few years. And one of the things I love most about my community is that it's primarily online. So you get to connect with people around the world. I connected with Alicia Portelli, who is a cycling coach, a studio founder, and one of those people who I've just been cheering on via a distance for many years because she has this amazing grit, tenacity, and resilience. Her studio, called JAMM in Sydney, Australia, was known for the athleticism of its riders and the community built around it. She went on to lead the cycling division at one of Asia's largest boutique fitness studios, coaching across Singapore, Bangkok, Malaysia, and has done guest coaching experiences in all of these places, including Mexico, which I think she was about to fly out to maybe today. I'm recording this the day after our interview. In early 2025, and I'm going to give away some of the story here, After 9 years of teaching at various studios, opening her own, closing her own, she moved to New York to join the coaching team at AARMY, where she now teaches alongside Akin, one of the coaches who first inspired her back in the day in 2017. I'm so excited to welcome Alicia to today's episode because the conversation was really in depth. We were completely aligned on some things, and I took a lot away from it personally. I did want to note a slight trigger warning. Just like last episode, we talk a little bit about eating disorders from two people's perspective who have had them. Alicia shares her decades-long battle with it in a very powerful way, but in a way that's empowering. And so this might be something that you need to hear, or it might be something that you want to press pause on. So tap in, get ready for a longer episode, but one that is going to be one of my favorites for all time. Welcome, Alicia, to Yes, You Can. Thank you so much for being here.
For having me.
Oh my goodness. So we were just talking about how there's this level of familiarity that sometimes we have with people we know online. And I've been following Alicia for a few years, at least since 2022, 2021, I want to say. And where you are now, I just had to have this conversation. I had to pitch you on being on the podcast because we were just talking before we started recording. You have this amazing journey and you've been in the industry for a long time and have a lot of knowledge, a lot of experiences, things that you've learned and pivoted and changed. And so you are now at AARMY in New York. You're originally from Australia. Could you fill in the blanks between how you got from Australia to AARMY in New York and in a few minutes and just tell the listeners your story?
Okay, so the short, long version of the story, in 2016, I started coaching cycle, based studio, so metrics and vision, which is an interesting art. And there were small elements of rhythm to it. Anyway, a guy named David came to one of my classes one day and was opening a studio, and basically he started double timing in the middle of my class. What is that? And I want to learn how to do that because he looked really cool. Anyhow, eventually he elaborates that he's opening a studio, wants me to audition. So in 2017, I started training to become a rhythm coach. So it was slightly different. Anyway, while he was opening this studio, one of the opening Instagram posts that he had was of Akin. And he was doing a video clip at Soul Cycle to our house you, and he had his hands off the handlebars and his hair's flying everywhere. And I was like, who is that? And teach me how to do that. And it was from that moment that I was just mesmerized by this guy. And so when we finally got to opening, which was around September 2017, the owner of the studio kind of had these ideas of who and how our personalities would evolve. And at one point, I don't know if I actually said this to him in the moment, but I remember thinking it really clearly. My goals are I wanted to be the best coach in Australia, which there is no best. I just want to put that out there. But in my opinion, the most successful, so to speak, when you talk about Australia, you think Alicia Portelli, cycle coach. And I always knew, I was like, I want to work with this guy in some way, shape or form. And at this point, he was still at Soul Cycle. And so I don't know how it was going to happen or how the dots would connect, but at the end of the day, I just had this vision of myself at some point rubbing shoulders with the best coaches in the world. That was always what I'd envisioned for myself. It was always bigger than Australia. I got fired from that studio. We're obviously back on track and friends again, but it was a really tumultuous time. I remember that the 6 months following that, I felt really lost. But I landed in another studio, which really taught me a lot about community and how the coaches came together and really supported each other. And then lockdown happened. And then I had this really strange epiphany one day when I was on a Lululemon ambassador phone call. And they said to me, what's your big dream? And Hannah, I tell you for free, I never wanted to open a studio. I've seen what happened at Scenic Cycle. I saw what happened at Psychology, with the opening, how stressful it was. And without a shadow of doubt, the words come out of my mouth. I'm going to open my own studio. And everyone's, oh my God, that's such an amazing, zero plans. And I remember saying it thinking, that come from? Like, this is really weird. Anyway, I got that phone call, and it's funny how the universe will conspire to make things
Hmm.
happen. I'm
Yeah.
telling you the long, short version. And so then I had a couple of people offer to invest. And then I was like, okay, universe is knocking on my door again
Hmm.
to say, let's go. And then just before lockdown was to open, I actually got fired from that studio. Another
Okay.
long story. I'm really not
Okay.
a bad person or bad at my job. It's all circumstantial, and I'm now friends with everybody again. But it's
Yeah. Yeah.
not a part of the story because I think people sometimes think, oh, look, it's like glamorous and they've made it there without having to do much. I mean,
Hmm.
I had so many like shit times. I always knew that this is what I wanted to do. So it was like overcoming constantly. So I built JAMM, and JAMM was really centered around Michael Jackson, my love of performing, my love of dance. But the one thing that I noticed within Australia is that cycle studios lacked like really teaching people how to ride. And
Mm.
so during lockdown, obviously, Akin did a lot of. Oh, sorry, let me backtrack for a sec. In 2018, so this is an important part of the story, Akin actually toured for the first time, and he came to Sydney and Singapore, and he basically worked at the studio that I was at, and then later on the studio I would end up at.
Okay.
And like,
Yeah.
I think they're important parts of the story. Anyway,
Absolutely.
the very first time I rode with him, I was obsessed with Karen Nesbitt as well from Soul Cycle, and I loved the way Angela Manuel Davis was able
These are all
to,
my favorites. I'm sorry.
yeah,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
these are my biggest muses, these
Yeah.
three. Like, I always wanted the athleticism of Akin, the soul of Angela, and the personality that Karen brings. Like you can't really ascertain what makes Karen's classes so great because it's just who she is.
Yes. Yeah.
Like it's so hard to, oh, what is it that she does? I'm like, she just beats herself, and that's why it's
Mm.
great. And so like I was heavily inspired by those three coaches. Anyway, I digress. I opened JAMM. There's a bit of an ethos as to like very similar to what Akin had created. Like I had seen the way he'd built his teams, and I was inspired by the way he made it not just about who he was, but about his athletes. And so I really wanted to create a space that wasn't so much about the coach. And I know that up until that point, I had taught these hard classes, which I thought were really tough back then. And I didn't really coach, I was instructing. I
Mm.
was delivering something and hoped that people would get it. And I used to make people feel good about what they were doing, and classes were full. But that's when I was like, oh, I really need to actually teach people how to do this. And so I really fell in love with the idea of developing skills within people so that I didn't have to sell packs. I would sell the passion behind the discipline. Ultimately, that would sell itself. So people felt like they were part of something. It was family. It was a place that we actually came to do something that we really loved. And it wasn't like, hope I'll see you back next week. It was like, no, we're part of something. We're training. Anyway, JAM became, in my opinion, some of the best coaches in Sydney who each had their own personality and flavor, but the glue that held us together was that we're all super passionate about ride. We
Mm.
just did it in our own unique ways. And I always felt as a client, there was always an avenue of someone that you could fall in love with, hopefully, and then
Mm.
stay. And then ultimately, like if you didn't really want to work on being intense, you didn't ride with me. Or if you just came for fun, like you rode with Liv, or like challenging but achievable great nights on Monday night with Matt, and Eve was all about the music. And anyway, that was kind
Mhm.
of the ethos. JAMM ended up shutting down because of noise complaints, which most studios in the world. So,
I'm literally consulting with the studio right now. And my last podcast with Holland Scattergood, we were talking about noise
yes.
complaints. It's if we could eradicate noise complaints, we would have studios that hadn't closed or hadn't needed to close or hadn't needed to add insulation. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that we can't be in the middle of nowhere.
I did try to find a warehouse, but of
Mhm.
course, like you just said, it's like what I noticed in Australia was that riders tend to, or any, like with anything, they're born of convenience as opposed to instructor driven. So no
Mhm.
matter how good you are, you could be in Timbuktu. They're not going to travel that far if they can get something similar, more convenient. And
Mhm.
so finding obviously the right rent is important. And then we want it in a densely populated area. Therefore, we're always going to run into those issues. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
anyway, that's a whole other topic we can talk about another time.
Yeah. And you had said that you, in a women's health article, you loved teaching. And one thing that you learned from running a studio was that running the business side wasn't quite the thing that
Yeah.
lit you up inside, which I think is, I love that honesty because people have asked me in the past, would you want, I'm like, absolutely not. I love running my coaching and mentoring business. I love
Yes.
marketing. I love online connection. A brick and mortar, and I've looked at investing in studios too. A brick and mortar just, I get overwhelmed by the thought of like, how much does toilet paper cost? And like, shampoo, and somebody not being able to make the 6 a.m. shift and me getting a call. And that doesn't interest me. I love bringing the best in people. I love leadership, but running a business is hard. And I'm preaching to the choir, obviously.
Yeah, it takes 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's relentless and it's never ending.
Hmm.
And as much as we loved JAMM, so my best friend and I ended up running it. Yeah, like when it shut down, I was sad because what we built was really special. It was sad that I wasn't able to fulfill the dream that I had, which was like really cultivating something within Australia. But I genuinely believe, again, with every being fired, with every chance meeting, it was
Mhm.
a universal sign of, okay, your time's done. And so the way that it was able to fold was also pretty seamless. I mean, aside from losing a substantial amount of money, I recouped some, but
Yeah.
that's when Singapore came knocking. And again, I started the kind of the idea with that arrangement in the beginning was, oh, every quarter you'd go out there. And
Hmm.
so I was doing pop-ups within Sydney. And once that shut, I never really saw myself living overseas, but I was like, I'm not sure what's next, but I do see myself traveling all over the world. But I also knew it was such a large investment for any studio globally to even fly me out from Australia. It was like, we're so far away. Eventually, I taught at Absolute Cycle. I'm super grateful because it obviously opened the door for that next opportunity. And it was while I was in Bangkok that I had this moment sitting down in their commons area at the in Tonlaw, one of their studios. And I was like, I can see myself living here. And I was like, there's another one of those like some moment thoughts. And so obviously it unfolded from there. And then, of course, I got to Singapore and I was in charge of, in the beginning, like helping them find guest coaches. In the end, like that didn't become part of my role, but in the beginning. And so I knew Akin was coming to Singapore. And funnily enough, he wasn't coming to us. He was coming out through Lululemon for Glow Fest.
Okay.
And I was too late to actually get a ticket. Now, if that man has traveled to Asia or Australia or wherever, I've been in the class, I couldn't get a ticket. So I went straight to my boss and I was like, look, he's already coming out. Can we explore this idea of getting him out?
Hmm.
And so it went from there and we got him out. And then, of course, like that relationship built. So it was really interesting again, like how he came back into my hemisphere and
Hmm.
all of this sort of stuff. And I guess there's a huge part of me that was like, if I've moved to Asia, then maybe one day I can go to New York. And so I was there on a trip once, just before I moved to Singapore. And one of the girls actually said to me, she goes, you're home. What are you doing? I was like, what do you mean? She's, you're right at home here. She's like, get an E3 visa and find a job and move. And of course, in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, yeah, so easy. Just find a job, no? Just leave my
Yeah.
like. And
Yeah.
so at that point, I wasn't really set up to be able to just do that. And of course, like at that point, I don't think AARMY was even hiring. And even if they were, it just didn't seem like the right thing at the time. So of course, Asia was the next best step. And I'm really happy I did because living in another country and learning a new culture like real will really open like your mind and the way you do things. And again, like I'm like super honest, like I made loads of mistakes. I did things that like when I look back, I'm like, wow, that was really not my finest moment in coaching. But of course, like through mistakes is, in my opinion, where I learn the best.
Of course. Yeah.
And like I was able to get through that. Like it felt really tough in the beginning, just trying to assimilate because guest coaching is so different to being a resident coach. guest coaching, everybody loves you. You're not really responsible whether they're getting it or not. You're just there to give them a good time.
Yeah.
Versus now I'm a resident coach. My class can't just be a spectacle or a show. It really is about showing them how to do it. So
Mhm.
therefore, like I'm teaching them the skill. And so like I really took that quite seriously. But of course, people were like, hey, we want the fun. Where is she gone again? Anyway, that's a whole other topic. But I went to New York in November 2024. There was actually a psychic that had said to me, this trip is really important for you. I know. This same psychic is the psychic that also told me in April 2024, she's going to close your studio. And I was like, no, I'm not.
Can we
So,
stop this session?
yes, it was nuts. Like April 2024, we get on a phone call and she's like, JAMM is done, like out of nowhere.
Mhm.
And my mouth dropped to the floor. Anyhow, I spent all of this time, like I was like, this is not going to happen. We're going to make it. And she was like June, July, like April, May, June, July, 3 months, like nothing had happened. Obviously, I had sound complaints and things like
Mhm.
that background, but my lease didn't expire for 3 years until October. So I couldn't even understand like how that would happen. She's
Mhm.
like, fine, your landlord will let you get out of it. I was like, I walked to my landlord, say I'm done. And I was like, this is ridiculous. And then it was 2 weeks later that I got the letter that was trying to sue me personally for the sound. And that's when I knew. I like looked at my best friend and I was like, we're done. That's it. I can't afford
Mhm.
to be sued. It's a super important part of the story as well, because that same psychic had said to me, so I must sound crazy, but
No, I
she's
love psychics. Like you were talking to the best. Like specifically, I have a book of spells behind me.
oh, yes.
Like I am very into this, and I want her number after
No,
this call.
no, she's not. Unfortunately, she's not talking to us anymore.
Oh my
That's not,
God.
I know. We've been trying to get back in touch with her, but she's done.
I've given you all of the direction that you need. Just go live your best lives. Yeah. Yeah.
March, January last year, not last year gone, but the year before was the last time we spoke. And she only answered my call again out of the blue. Anyway, that's another.
Interesting. Okay.
I'll
Yeah.
tell you more about that later. But she basically said this trip is really important. And she encouraged me to reach out to Akin and tell him that I wanted to work there. Anyway, so I did. Against my better judgment, I was freaking out. I was like, no, if he wants you, he would ask you all of these things. And so, of course, I reached out. He basically told me that we love you, we think you're great, but we don't offer visas and we obviously don't relocate. So that was it. And then, of course, when I got to AARMY in 2024, they opened their auditions. I remember sitting in a hotel with my eyes wide open. I messaged my friend Angel from Mexico and I was like, if you're not auditioning for this, like I'm going to slap you, number one. And he goes, tell me you're going for it as well. And I'm like, of course, but like, I
Mhm.
don't know how to do this. And so that's when I messaged Akin again and I was like, do I need to be auditioning for this? What's the situation? And so we met up, we spoke, I ran an audition, I got the job, but of course, the clutch was that I needed to get a visa
Mhm.
and I needed to make my own way over there. And so they're like, we'll hold the position for you, just let us know when you're ready. I didn't know how hard it was to get a visa. I was like, cool, I'm an Australian, E3. Anyway, wasn't as simple as that. It took us 12 months, which is how the women's health article was written, because part of getting a talent visa into the States is that you need to be seen as someone that's quite influential in your
Mhm.
industry, has some kind of say. I had to write media articles and do all
That's
these.
so interesting. I work in PR. I teach PR at a college. And this is I I love this coming together of like earned media visibility, like credibility, right? And building your brand and being willing to go outside of your own spaces helps with that, develop a reputation so that you can say, yes, I'm the only one who can do this, America. You
Yes.
need to let me in. Like, yeah, for sure.
I was super lucky that like within JAMM, we worked with the New South Wales government. So that helped aid with
Mhm.
us. I'd owned a business. Obviously, guest teaching in multiple different countries really helped paint a really colorful picture. So there were lots of parts to the puzzle, but again, like all of that stuff is super important. And my best friend was the one that really instigated doing all of that. So Josie is, I don't really like calling her a PA because I sound like a wanker when I say that. Because what coach needs a PA, but she runs my life. It's really
Listen,
helpful.
I've had an assistant too, and like I'm definitely not. And they help. People are like, "How do you do all the online?" Like, I had a person who was setting this up so I could be doing podcast episodes and whatever I need to do. Yeah.
Where the creativity, where the brains, and as a coach, how do you have time to better yourself, still teach, look after yourself, as well as do social media, as well as try and build a brand with all of that stuff, and then do admin, and it's a lot.
Vet appointments, dogs, and like literally
Yeah,
all the stuff.
it is.
Yeah.
I haven't even spoken about those two, but
Yeah.
they exist as well. But anyway, so I obviously got my visa in. Funnily enough, my best friend, who also is a little psychic, she guessed the date. She wrote it down. She was like December 8th. And of course, I got my visa on December 8th, which was amazing. And I didn't even think, I pretty much resigned the next day from Singapore, which was both bittersweet in so many ways. Obviously, sweet because tackling my dreams, but bitter because I'd built an amazing group of humans that I'm really proud of. Typically, Singaporeans aren't the most emotional humans. And to have a room full of people that really went there, but not just physically, but like emotionally, they were supportive of each other. And so I really felt, as one of my writers would say, he goes, "You brought a misfit group of people together, like the most uncanny of groups, when you led something really beautiful." And there was always great energy in the studio before we trained, and afterwards we'd hang out. And again, they weren't the most likely of friends, but we all became, I don't want to say friends because friendship alludes that we did lots of things together, but
Yeah.
we at least spent time and were supportive and encouraged each other. And we learned to do some pretty crazy things as well because they were just so hungry to constantly learn, grow, and evolve. So that was really cool, and that was sad to leave behind. And so I moved to New York in February to start again, which honestly, it sounds crazy. And I got here and I was like, cool, I'm Alicia Portelli. Everything will be fine. Like, I am starting from the beginning. I am back with 1 and 2 people in some of my practices when people don't see the less glamorous side. But again, I've never had a problem with teaching to 1 to 2 people because I really love teaching people how to write. So I'm back to building a following, and every time I teach, I feel like I have lots of, what's really exciting is I get lots of internationals that come in.
Yeah. To visit.
Yeah, it's cool. But the problem with that is every time you teach, it's like a first class experience. So where you're in your home studio and you have that beautiful intimate relationship with writers because they're constantly coming. Sometimes some practices can feel like a bit of a revolving door where you're getting new blood in, or you're getting people that are visiting, which is amazing, but you've got to make sure that experience exceeds their expectations every time. So it's such an amazing pressure to have.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the way I see it.
That is such an interesting perspective. There's been a few moments that you've said things where I've been like, yes, exactly. I've never said it out loud, but that's how I feel with, I've had a few guest coaching opportunities come my way, and it's felt like a no in my body for various reasons. Cause I'm like, one of the things I love is the consistency I've had with my community and the ability to feel completely like myself being at the same studio since 2018. I go to other places and people know me. And of course, I coach instructors, but something about teaching people in the room, even when there is half of them are new, it's like, this is a whole other experience. This is a whole other experience I'm delivering and I'm adjusting. And when somebody just knows and can almost read my mind of what I'm going to say before I cue it, I value that. And I just don't want to necessarily go to a brand new place. But that feels like, that feels like what everybody is aspiring to right now, or people are collectively saying that's the thing you should be. I'm like, it feels weird for me to say that's not my truth, but I do want to talk to
No,
people on podcasts and hear about their experiences. So it's really
it's
fascinating to hear you say that.
yeah, and I think that's a really interesting thing. How and I remember being back in Sydney and we had some guest coaches come through. And I remember at that time, guest coaching really meant you had something special to offer the studio. That's why they were bringing you in. And I used to jump on every opportunity that I could. And nowadays, like you just said, everybody's aspiring to do it. But guest coaching is amazing and it's fun and it's electric and it's exciting, but it does lack that intimacy. And I have toured in so many places. And I always remember coming home, whether it be JAMM or whether it be Singapore, and just being like, okay,
Yeah.
there's something really special about having that relationship with people where you know who you can be direct with, you know who you can laugh with, little innuendo jokes that you
Yes.
try that you can say, like, I'm known to be quite crass sometimes or say,
Oh, yeah.
hey, we're the
Yeah.
same people.
Yeah, exactly. I swear it like a fucking pirate. I used to work in professional football in Canada, and so my job was directing 60 men, and it just fit my personality because I was like, and all of my rides are explicit. The only negative feedback I've ever received has been because I asked the room if they were feeling slutty. And just like, and one person was not ready for that. I was like, I should have, you've clearly never been to my rides because
Yeah.
all we do is swear and rap and dead. I'm on the ground crawling around to get low. I mean, it's a show and we're all part of it, but it's fun and it's filthy and it's gritty and like so anyway, sorry, you were saying innuendos that people when you say something and somebody looks at you and you're like, yes, you caught that.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, this is ridiculous, but I liken everything that we do on the bike to sex. I'm like, okay, here's my favorite. Meeting a new instructor is like having sex with someone for the first time. You both know what you're doing, but you're just working out what each other likes, right? And the
Yeah.
more that you do it, the more that you gel, and you either decide that you're compatible or you're not. And
This
that's
is
just how
amazing.
it is. So I'm
This is
like,
amazing. I'm gonna start, people are gonna start just giving reviews being like they're bad in bed. Yeah. Yeah. They didn't motivate me.
she can't give head, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I love it so much.
But
And so you've had all these moments where you've started again, started fresh, and like that's one of the many reasons I wanted to have you on the pod, but just like that story of resilience and like the new, it's like all these chapters. I see them visually, like all these chapters of like, hey, we close the chapter with grace and we move to the next one. But and I don't know if this is a generational thing. I don't know what it is, but there's this expectation, and I had it too when I first started, that things would just be easy and my classes would just fill and I just, and everybody would like it would all just flow. And having the resilience to start again, especially after opening and closing a studio, is very remarkable to me. And I think everybody should take note of like look at Alicia's LinkedIn profile and look at like this look at this resume of all of these chapters that have compounded and built to what we see now, which is the amazing like high production videos of AARMY and like you side by side with Akin and you touring the globe. Like that didn't happen from day one. You talked about being let go from studios and like all of these things. It's just I don't know if you've said this explicitly anywhere, but is that a message that you often bring to your riders or your clients about like resilience and being willing to fail and start again and persevere?
always. I mean, with everything in my life, like everything has always come about the tough way. And I am a massive believer, and I'll always say this, that tough lessons are your best teachers.
Mhm.
And so I will always tell people that I teach hard classes because hard moments teach us the most. And so when people have something to say about a level of intensity, or this is too much, or all this sort of stuff, and it's often outsiders that have something to say, I'm like, I've only ever learned through hard things.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, through my experience, I teach best teaching you hard things. But it's not just about for the show. It really is more about like showing and proving to yourself that you can get through them. And something that Akin always coaches and preaches is that if it's possible for one, it's possible for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely believe that because through repetition, through trying, through showing up, through attempting, like if you can really let go of like your own expectations and society's ideals, which is often, if I don't get it the first or second go, then this is too much or it's not enough. But like really being able to like keep coming back with every knockdown. I have this drill that I do sometimes, and it's teaching people how to do a long run. And essentially what I do is 8 counts up, 8 counts sit, 16 counts up, 8 counts sit, 24 counts up. And so basically it's not a, people tell me, Alicia, it's not a pyramid, it's a ladder. Ladder run
Yeah.
because it
Yeah.
never goes down. But I always, when I coach it, I will always be like, every time you come back to the saddle, it's not a break. You're being knocked on your ass and you've got to get ready because the next opportunity to get up is there. And even despite how tired you feel with every attempt, like it gets a little bit more challenging every time you get back up. And I read this book once when I was healing from my eating disorder about recovering from any kind of addiction. Trying to get like to the other side is like crossing a rapid river. Every time you get on the log, you fall off and you go back to the shore. You
Mm-hmm.
stand up, you attempt it again. Now you're a little wiser. So every time you get on, you get a little further every time. You fall off, you go back, you stand up, and then you keep doing that until you get
Mm-hmm.
so close. And then you like strategically work out how to get to the other side. And so I think that drill spiritually and like metaphorically is kind of how I built that and how I coach that, because it's not like, hey, dips in the saddle, I'm trying to teach you this. It's like I'm really trying to show you that, like, with perseverance, and you might only get to 3 sets of 8 on one day, but eventually you'll get to 4 and you'll get to 6 and then you'll get to 8 and so forth. And then eventually the pros don't ever sit. They just come to a middle bar pump. And like,
Mm-hmm.
what's this beautiful like journey of like, because everybody likes to tell, like, I love long runs. They're like my love language. I often have coaches be like, why would you want to do that? I'm like, I love it. So it's my
Mm-hmm.
scene,
Mm-hmm.
like I don't knock what you love, don't knock what I love.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I think anything's bad about what anything anybody does. I think everybody has their place and
Mm-hmm.
we all teach it from a place of passion and love. And if as long as we're doing that, then that's all that matters. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that really is the through line with everything that I do. And I guess like I listen to self-help books and helping rewire the mindset so that I'm constantly, staying on touch. And that doesn't mean that I don't go through my own self-doubt moments and pitfalls where I like start to think, okay, like it's tough restarting again. And it's
Mm-hmm.
tough, you know, being up here and then all of a sudden like coming back down there and really just having that humility to be like, there's so much more that I can be learning. And I think that that's what I'm most excited about being here is that in starting again, it's not just deploying all the things that I already know, but it's like being open to things that I can further learn so that I can constantly grow this toolkit. And who knows where it will go? I'm like, the big dream was New York and working with Akin. So I'm here for as long as I can,
Mm-hmm.
imagine, as long as he'll keep me or however that wants to play out. But like I'm really in a space of like, what can I actually learn? And
Mm-hmm.
how can I further develop so that I become even better at what I do? And, it's
Yeah.
like such a great like opportunity in that sense.
When you were speaking, this is the first time on the podcast where this has happened, where I was getting verklempt when you were talking about the rapid river. I was just like, oh, God, can you imagine being in one of her classes? Like, I would be probably sobbing on the bike and you'd be like, get your ass up and I'd be like, okay.
Run.
Okay. Cry. Exactly. Exactly. Run. You can cry while you run.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, the that metaphor is very important, I think, because the longer people live, obviously, the more experiences they have that feel like failure, that feel like setbacks, and it feels insurmountable, whether it's grief, whether it's, I share in the experience of having an eating disorder, whether it's an injury, I tore my Achilles in class. Like I've like had all these things where just like, okay, we strengthen and we that scar tissue and we build from it and we continue on. And I think the experiences you have, and it's not that to say, because I coach a lot of young instructors and I mentor them. And they're like, what do I have to say? I'm like, you're gonna just keep building your life experience and it's gonna get better and better. You're gonna have this repertoire where you can connect with people who are 74, who are 18, who are, whatever age. But I do believe that I personally love being coached by people who can speak from a certain level of experience because I'm like, what do you know about loss? Like, what do you know
Yeah.
about, like setbacks? And so, have you recognized how all of these experiences have given you more perspective or like just connecting with different, like Singapore, because you're talking about learning. And so to me, that's like, that's a very mature and like I think the experts, like the astronauts, know that they're learning all the time. It's the people who call themselves visionaries and like I'm the person who's like who I'm like I don't want to learn from you because if you're not curious and you're not creative and you're not, it's like continuing the road of learning, then like that's such a closed mindset. It's really hard to it's hard to feel inspired by. So have you
Yeah.
recognized all of these perspectives like adding to your coaching repertoire?
1,000,000%. I mean, like through making mistakes or like, trying different things, and also just taking from other people. Like I've spent years in other people's rooms, like really like dissecting. Like I will walk out of a class and like, and not in a negative way, but like really like rip it apart in my
Hmm.
head. Did I love? Like, how did they make me feel? What would I do differently? Oh, I like how that was said, but then how do I repurpose that?
Hmm.
Because one of the things that I'm really big on is not copying. It drives me insane. Like it drives me insane. And I say that because why would you want to be somebody's second best?
Hmm.
So I love taking something that someone does and then making it my own. And that doesn't mean like, I mean, I've everything that I've done, like spinners is a wheel. We're all repurposing something that we've taken
Hmm.
from somewhere.
Hmm.
And so I love taking something that I've been inspired by, but then adding my own twist or making it my own. So it's like I'm never like the second rate version of myself.
Right.
And I think that also keeps you on your toes because when you're thinking, you're constantly creating. And when you're creating, you're continually being inspired. And it's when you stop being that, in my opinion, is when you really start to fall out of love with it.
Hmm.
Um, because you want to have that curiosity to create, to learn, to shape, to like explore. And
Hmm.
so, and sometimes it's tough, when you feel dry of ideas or whatever have. So it's like pulling on those different levers, whether it's taking another coach's class, whether it's listening to an entire different genre of music, whether it's like bringing up an audio book or taking like a totally different class.
Hmm.
Like the amount of inspiration that I get just from hearing like a Pilates coach, the way they speak and how they
Hmm.
command authority. It's like, ooh, like super gentle, this and that. Like, and then it will remind me of my ballet teacher. And then it was like, okay, let's bring that back in. And
Hmm.
it's like creativity everywhere. And Aki actually just did a practice recently that he saw the Ray concert. And
Hmm.
in my opinion, it was the most musically creative that I've ever seen him be. And I'm telling you that, like I was bawling. I often cry in his classes. From a more of an emotional, spiritual perspective this time, that it wasn't that I'd been pushed so hard that I felt broken open.
Mm.
That obviously was part of it, but it was more like the way he blended his music and told an actual musical journey with the intensity of the ride was
Hmm.
like he nailed it. Like Lifeboat by Ray right at the end, and the softness and the lights and the climbing, and then like I was just like, and so he said to me, he was like, New York City will provide so much inspiration, but you've just got to go out and find it. And so, of course, like, it really is looking outside of just a cycle studio and, going and seeing a concert. Or for me, it was like watching the Michael Jackson, movie, and really drawing inspiration off like his manifestation practices, or like I mean, I already knew this, but he was such a disciplinarian and a perfectionist.
Hmm.
And he studied from the greats, which is another reason why I used to ride with lots of people, because Michael Jackson learned from Fred Astaire. He learned from Charlie Chaplin. He learned from like just all these different,
Hmm.
James
Yeah.
Brown, built a style. And so again, I think like that's really how I've tried to shape my ride journey, is that like go and find all these people that inspire you and take the best
Hmm.
and then like curve and create. So anyway.
Yeah. I love all of that. And I agree with it wholeheartedly. Like I've been asked before about motivation, which is definitely the thing I lead with, and between the get low, twerking on the ground, and then Hannah hitting you with motivation. Like those are the two reasons people usually come to my rides. And people have asked me like, where do you get inspired for these whatever monologues or these cues? And it comes from audiobooks, it comes from personal development, it comes from poetry, quotes, and music, and things that are usually not found when I'm taking a class necessarily. Although, folks like Angela Davis, like I first connected with Christina Giroux because she hosted AARMY at her studio in 2021. So I flew there to take
Yeah.
Angela's class and just be in her presence. And I was like, if I could bring this like a just a dusting of what she's like made us feel. And but I will often give her credit for one of the things I do, which is like repetition. She'll repeat a phrase like a few
Yes.
times, and I'm like, if you are not feeling like you're heard, it's probably because you're going too quickly or you're like speeding through something. Be willing to like sit in the phrase that you are and commit to it and say it a few times. You see preachers do this, in from the pulpit or whatever. And it's because it's like I'm hammering this into stone. So you are going to remember this phrase. And she's one of the masters of it. And so like I'll take things like that, like technical sort of, and then you insert your own phrase, your own motto, your own whatever
Yeah.
quote. But um I, yeah, getting inspired by getting outside of your bubble is so important, I think. And I wanted to lead into a few questions because you said professional or personal development. Is there a particular book that you've read that sort of shifted something? You talked about rewiring your mindset
Yeah.
um, and pathways. Is there a book that's helped you do that, or that is comes to mind when I ask the question? I'm like, which one? Which one do you love the
Yeah.
most?
Okay, interesting one, which probably won't resonate with everyone, was Eating in the Light of the Moon.
Okay.
And that was the tipping point to help fix my eating disorder. So I was like really sick for like many, many years. I want to say like 28 years.
Okay.
And I really wanted to heal myself. But that book has nothing to do with ride and things like that. But that it basically, at the beginning of every chapter, tells a fable. And the fable is like a metaphoric um, overview of exactly what's about to land in the chapter. And so I've drawn a lot of inspiration. There were a couple of things that I really took from there. One was the rapid river analogy, and the other one was, in my personal opinion, like before I was going to make myself sick, don't beat myself up. just really sit down and write all the things that had happened before I got to that point.
Mm.
And then, of course, go ahead. And then every time I was faced in that situation, I was to then recognize what the patterns and the behaviors were, which enabled me to really cement that my triggers were control and rejection. And I
Mm.
won't, there's a whole backstory to all of those. But when I was able to ascertain those feelings and the things that led me to wanting to like eat my body weight in food, I was able to then start reconciling with myself. And that obviously took a long time. So that was one that I find really pivotal.
Hmm.
And you don't have to have an eating disorder to actually read it, because it's funny, like the way she talks about the feminine, the masculine, and all of
Hmm.
that. So it's a really interesting book. I loved it. The other two that I've drawn most inspiration off is Grit by Angela. I can't remember her name, but it basically talks about talent versus those that work hard.
Mm.
Like, we always think that like the most talented is the most successful, but in actual fact, it's the hardest worker that, you know,
Yeah.
that person is. So I loved that. That was something really important for me in Singapore.
Hmm.
I'm currently listening to, I'm only halfway through, but I'm obsessed with it and I'm like excited to listen to it again, is called Rewire Your Brain. Where's my phone? Brian Friedman is the author.
Okay.
I'll find it in a sec. I think it's Rewire Your Mind. Anyway, we're basically talking about like a lot of different concepts, and it's so funny. Like, he talks about mastery and what's important now, which is win, which is all terminology that we use through AARMY. Um,
Mm.
so it's like there's a lot of crossover that's in between. And there's one thing that I'm like really excited about is like hoping to eventually find my life partner in love. And
Hmm.
it talks about like the four quadrants in life. So like career, like yourself, your love. There was something else. Anyway, it sort of talks about all these different parts and like getting out of your own way and using self-sabotage. And like he talks about how he did 6 back-to-back marathons running through the Sahara Desert and facing fears. So like real fears were like, I could die on this run.
Hmm.
So like making sure that he had like anti-venom pens and, all of that sort of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Like, and just like how goals and being so tunnel visioned is not a way to live, because then you neglect the people that you love in your life. And that's something that I will say that over the years I have done, like invested so much of my time and energy into building a career that my kids are in Australia.
Hmm.
So at what point do I become like a better mother, and how am I building out my social life? Because I spend all my waking hours in my days training, prepping, like being Alicia Portelli on the bike, that
Hmm.
like who am I outside of that? So it's been a really great read to not only like rewire my brain and my mindset, but like I take tidbits. Like,
Hmm.
one of my favorite lines is, on the other side of fear is the person you want to become,
Mm.
which I really love, because often we think of fear as like, oh, something that stops me. But actually, like when you really think about it, like on the other side is everything that we want to become and who we want to
Hmm.
be. It's
Hmm.
nice to be able to like take those little tidbits. So yeah, they're my three that I really love. Like, when you win up here, like you can win everything else. I think that's what I love so much about Rewire the Brain. The Grit book just reminds you that you don't have to be the most talented and most capable, but if you are hardworking and you do persevere, then,
Hmm.
fortune rewards the brave. And then, of course, with Eating in the Light of the Moon, it's like, it's a really beautiful book of really just understanding oneself, like, and you can apply to that with anyone. Like, before you do a behavior that you don't love, like, don't punish yourself. Just think about everything that gets you to that point.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then,
Like removing shame from the equation, but just like taking an analytical perspective and being like, let's just look outside of ourselves for a second and not feed into that I'm bad and I'm going to do this. And it's like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's going to happen regardless. But actually being like, what is causing this loop? And, what happened? And how can I just recognize that instead of attributing anything to it? I love that.
So true. I mean, like, I made myself sick for like every day of my life from about 12 to obviously while I was pregnant with my daughter, I managed to
Mm-hmm.
curb
Mm-hmm.
my son. I still did it a little bit while I had him, but I
Mm-hmm.
did it every day. Like, that's a tough habit to crack, when you've
Yeah.
been doing it more than most of your adult life. So it was really powerful to just sit and get clear because, you go to counseling and you do all these things. And for me, it didn't work. And I'm not saying that it doesn't work for
Mm-hmm.
anyone, but I really saw through there were like, just count to 10 before you go to do it. And I was like, I'll count it to 100 and I
Yeah,
still wouldn't,
exactly.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it was really cool because in some ways I feel like I got to heal myself, which I think is a really powerful thing to
Mm-hmm.
say. And when you've done that, you've then got the ability to constantly rely on yourself because you are your source of power in
Mm-hmm.
that sense.
That's
Anyway,
that's not to reiterate what you just said, but that is so powerful because I think sometimes and I say this is one of my motivations too, like the hero you're looking for, the main character you're waiting for is the one looking back at you in the mirror. And you can imagine that version the hero version of you living inside you, waiting for the opportunity instead of like that external the locus of control, internal of control versus external. It's like if we think that everything outside of us is what controls us, then we're going to feel completely powerless to any sort of whim. And so I really love that. Like regardless of if you have external supports that made it easier or whatever, like knowing that it's you who did it is amazing. And when you said self-sabotage, if you like when you're talking about the books, there's a book, if you haven't listened to it, it's one of my favorites. It's called The Big Leap, and
yeah.
the author is Gay Hendricks, and it's like this elderly guy who who narrates it, which is not usually my whatever, but it's all about how once it's like limiting beliefs, and once we reach the upper limit of what we believe our ability to be or potential to be, then we self-sabotage. And it talks about like the real physical things that happen sometimes where all of a sudden we get sick or whatever, and it's like we're we don't believe we're good enough for this thing, and so our body is like freaking out the whole time saying, okay, like this is too much, this isn't how I see myself. And so rewiring how you see yourself and actually understanding that. um we've talked about Michael Jackson, and if anybody's followed you, they know that you love him as an artist. You're very inspired by his music. You come from this background of dance. We've talked online as well about like because Will You Be There is the song that made me fall in love with rhythm cycling versus versus performance cycling. And when I play it right after weights, usually like every so often, everybody just is there connecting in this beautiful moment and tears are flowing, and it's like it's just gorgeous. It's been like the foundational track that's like really brings me home sometimes. If you were to pick one, maybe two, which tracks are your favorites from his huge discography?
Uh, this is like asking me to, Lord. Okay. I don't the problem is I have so many favorites. Okay. The tracks that have probably had the most impact, maybe this is the better way to say it because I love it. Smooth Criminal was one of the very first Michael Jackson tracks that I heard when I was backstage watching the seniors dance at my when I performed at my first dance
Yeah.
concert. And so I was like three, maybe
Hmm.
3 or 4, something along that age, like when that came out. So that was huge for me. Um, I obviously called my studio Jam because I am obsessed with the song Jam by
Hmm.
Michael Jackson. I have it tattooed on my body.
Amazing.
Dangerous is a really important album for me. It was really where the obsession started. I had it on a cassette tape and I only had like three-quarters of the album. And I never had Keep the Faith and Dangerous, um, which is so funny because I've actually got dangerous lyrics tattooed on my body. I know, I'm crazy. So yeah, I think my favorites would definitely be Smooth Criminal, um, Jam, Dangerous, like
Hmm.
movie, and of course like Man in the Mirror.
Hmm.
And it's really funny that you brought up Will You Be There because when he died for 6 months, I played that song every day,
Hmm.
every day. And I would like sob. And I
Hmm.
haven't really like listened to it for a while. So I'm gonna have to bring that one back out.
Yeah, it's like for the and I feel like there's always like a naysayer in the room of, this is hokey or whatever. And I'm like, free willy, like just go there.
Yeah.
Just be there when the orca, like the killer
Yeah.
whale does the impossible. Try and tell me that's not inspirational. Like, and yeah, I think music, especially ones that were there at the beginning, because you've traveled so many places, you've lived so many places, like I can see, at least this is how I would be. Like music would be like a source of like family, like continuity. Just it brings you home to yourself a little bit sometimes. And I think that's beautiful. Best piece of advice you would have for somebody who's a brand new instructor. It can be funny or it can be in depth, whatever comes to mind for you today.
I want to say it's such a tough one because obviously, like with like leading training sessions as well, like the sorts of things that you give them. I think my biggest thing would be like get clear on your why first.
Hmm.
And like, because when you have a why, you have an anchor point. And then the next piece would always just be like, take as much as you can and learn from everybody. Like, don't close yourself off to like one or two things. Because there's such richness in watching different people. And even if it's not your style per se, or as people say, like, you can really like take little bits from everyone.
Hmm.
And I've ridden with so many people around the world, and like I've learned so much of what I know, not just through one person, but through multiple people.
Hmm.
And that doesn't mean that like the people of choice that like I choose to train with and that sort of stuff doesn't mean that they haven't inspired me like any less. It's just I've learned so much from everybody that I've taken.
Hmm.
Um, whether that's things that I do more of, or whether that's things like, oh, didn't love how that landed for me, or
Hmm.
and all of that sort of stuff, or like learning that simplicity is sometimes, key.
Hmm.
There was a point in my career where I would choreograph every single moment of my ride.
Hmm.
That's how we were trained. And so, like, it was like back to back choreography. That I remember taking a ride once which had just dips, just pushes, and a couple of obliques and a tap back. And I was like, what the fuck is this? Right?
Like, sorry, did we start? Did we start? Yeah.
I was so funny. And the room loved it. And I remember being in there being like,
Hmm.
did you do anything? It
Hmm.
was so funny.
Hmm.
But that nowadays, like, I love like a solid climb track with no moves.
Hmm.
Climb,
Hmm.
just you and the music, just the beat, because you've got nothing else to focus on except the thoughts and every step. And like, like it's that simplicity that lets you have those brain moments because
Hmm.
sometimes we're constantly looking to be distracted. And
Totally.
distracted, we're having fun, and that's fun. But my key line at the moment is like the tough things in life aren't always fun.
Hmm.
If you're constantly looking for the fun, you're going to be genuinely disappointed because
Hmm.
sometimes it's like really just sitting in that space of discomfort and creating your own version of joy in that sense. So anyway, I
Hmm.
take yeah, it's like be inspired, take and all of that, and just be yourself.
Hmm. Yeah, I love all of that and the simplicity conversation. Like I've spoken about this and made content around it, and it's like so nuanced that a one Instagram post I always find really frustrating because people will come at me in the comments. I'm like, listen, I can debate with you all day, and I would actually love to do that, but like but I am to have a one specific opinion on everyone and how like it's not realistic. It's not how actual conversation like or opinions are formed. And so I it's like I agree with you because sometimes the distraction can be what people are seeking. Like they're coming to the room to get out of their body or fight their body or punish their body. And you're like, I want you to like for 4.5 minutes, we're gonna climb and you're gonna be in your body here, feeling everything, like moving your shoulders back, feeling like your actual inhale and exhale, and just that powerful focus on form instead of what they might want. It's like they need time with themselves, and what they want
Yeah.
is us to do the Macarena. And like you're just like, no, like I want you to, the hardest thing is just be here in silence and actually like just be coached and have those micro adjustments and transformations instead of this thing that looks really cool but might not be what they actually need. So I completely agree with that. Um, what's the one track that would make you run through a brick wall? And I feel like you could actually do that physically. So this is this is a phrase I have on one of my reels is like tracks that would make me run through a brick wall. And it's like Afterlife by Drezzo, Before My People, Missy Out. Like there's some key tracks, but is there one that comes to mind when I say that?
Oh.
Or one that's right now is your
Yeah, I'm obsessed with Victory Lap by Fred again.
me
I
too.
fucking love that
Yeah.
song. I like lose my shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's one of
I
those. And I run to it. I'm like, fuck climbing, run. Everyone's like, rude, get up. I love it. Um,
Oh my gosh. I feel like sometimes the 140 or I don't know how you measure BPM, but I'm always like
yeah,
the yeah, 130, like 60, like um I'm 6 feet tall. And so sometimes I'm just
fuck you.
like
It's like,
like
yeah.
looking for the other tall bitch in the room. I'm like, are we okay?
Are we feeling the same thing?
Yeah, and then there's a motivator, a coach at Vault, who has always been one of my favorites and inspired me to teach, and her name's Anna, and she's absolutely feral, and she would be like jogging to something that I would have not jogged to. I'm like, this is a
Yep.
5 minute, like 110, and to me, that's a little bit more of a sit interval scene, but like it's just that, and like when she's willing to go to that and just show that athleticism, it inspires everybody. And I feel like that's what I've seen from your rides too, is like it's not that Alicia's doing it so I can do it. Like there's a obvious difference in experience and strength and athleticism and all of that. But you're in the challenge and in the work and like going to all of the lengths. And yeah, so victory lap would make me run through. If you played it and I was in your ride, I would do double time.
Would run with me because we're like, fuck yeah. And you can't help.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah, it's super hard. I'm telling you, when I get off this call, where I'm gonna be like, oh, I should have said that one. Oh, I should have said that one. But
Send it
there's
to me
so
and we'll add it to the show notes. We'll do a little Alicia's playlist vibe because I feel like
on
we
a
have very
laugh,
similar. Yeah.
on a massive laugh. So the marketing girl asked us at AARMY to put our like 10 to 12 tracks in a playlist of like things that you'd be known for. And
Mhm.
like my music is ever evolving and ever changing. I had 30 tracks. I was like, oh, but I like this, and this is part of my personality. And I was like, it was 12:30 one night, and I was teaching the 6 a.m. class, and I was like, go to bed. putting tracks in a Spotify playlist for just a website is not key priority right now.
No, no. I don't know if you have ADHD, but I do. And this is the kind of thing where I'm like, I'm hyper fixating on this task exactly. And I'm like,
Yes.
and they're like, it's not that deep. I'm like, okay, well, every song has a place in this playlist, so you can't edit it out.
Yeah, right. Now I have 30. I have double what they asked for. Like I'm that studious person. If
That's
you want 10, I'll give you double.
amazing. You do everything 110%, and I love you for that. Where this sort of wraps up our conversation, and I feel like there's gonna be a part two at some point because I just feel very deeply connected to you. And that's not always the case on a Zoom call, podcast, interview. But just everything, your story, your like lessons learned, there's just like a genuine, for people who don't know Alicia, there's such a genuine like goodness in you. Like that's like I just feel the good energy, and it just makes me want to be like, go bitch, like go fucking like anything you do, I will 100% be behind you because I just think you're a gift. And people, if they haven't ridden with you and they have the opportunity when they're in New York, they absolutely should, or online, which is something I'm going to do very soon and see if I can keep up. Um,
Yes,
you,
you can.
yes, you
Yes,
can exactly.
yes,
Oh
you
my
can.
God, she's like, I have the magic phrase. Where can we
Yes,
find you? Like you're going to be traveling. You've got is it Cycle Worldwide? Like you're with Priscilla, which another amazing
I
like
I know.
love
I'm like
her.
so the best thing about for me coaching all over is like getting to like rub shoulders with your peers,
Yeah.
fucking learning from them and being excited by them. Like I think that this is how I always wanted Ride to be.
Mm,
Is like my first few experiences were like competitive, and I was like, I don't want to compete with you. I want to grow with you. I want you to be better. That forces me to be better.
hmm
And so I feel like I'm like rubbing shoulders now with people that really like want to see the best for each other.
hmm
And I love that because, like no one is the best. I don't give a fuck what anyone says.
I agree. Yeah.
Like everybody has their place, and some people are the best at what they do.
hmm
And we each bring something beautiful to the table. So it's really
hmm
cool. I'm off to Monterey tomorrow for Powerhouse Fest,
Amazing.
which is really cool. And then cycle worldwide early July, I think 10th, 12th, which is really cool. I was involved in that event last year, so I'm really like stoked to have been invited back. Um,
hmm
and then I'm teaching at Fire and Flow in Guatemala with Voltio. So,
Thing.
which is so funny because they reached out like about 3 years ago to me to come, and I was like, I want to go to Mexico. And then they never like followed up. And I assumed that it had a lot to do with the fact that like my flights from Australia were so expensive.
hmm hmm
And
And
so
now
like,
it's coming together. Like there's all these moments throughout our conversation where it's been like there's been the seed planted and then like it happens later. And
yes,
there's like this patience that you being the world has to have. I think sometimes where it's like, okay, maybe not this moment, maybe not right now, but it is a yes, as long as you keep believing in it. And that's amazing. So people can find you online, Miss
yes. So,
Alicia Portelli, right? It'll be in the show notes, whatever. People can find you everywhere.
okay.
Yeah.
I think that that's one of the things. Sorry, if I could
No,
just
go
round
ahead.
up what you just said then. It's like, just like if you want something, like relentlessly chase it. And it
Mm,
doesn't have to happen now. You're 1,000% right. Like for me, Ride the World really opened the door on so many different things. So I just wanted to shout out Yvonne for that.
mm,
Um, but yeah, like everything that's happened and transpired, and I want to like really like nut this in. It's taken me 9 years to get to New York.
mhm,
Like it didn't happen overnight. Like guest coaching didn't happen like just by chance. Like it took time. And there's a lot of new coaches out there that like, I've done 6 months, I want to be there, or I should be master coach by now. And it's like, well, fuck your
mhm.
title.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
because there's no certification on any of that. So it's like, how do we even really ascertain who is what?
hmm
But yeah, if you really love it, like I've had so many roadblocks and no's, but I knew that this is exactly what I wanted to do. And
hmm
so like I have chased it. Like no matter how many times I've been knocked down or been told no, or you're too fast, you're too much, you're too tough, you're too this, you're too that. It's like with every no, I've been like, what can I learn from this and how do I pivot? Like,
hmm
so like if you want it, like that's kind of what it takes, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure you can identify with that too.
A
So
100 million%. I talk about how I first auditioned to become an instructor in 2009. Like I've been
yeah.
doing spins since like 2008 when I was working full time in a gym, and it wasn't this kind of, cycling, but it was somebody like I used to like line up Saturday mornings at the gym and like, find a bike, whatever. And I was like, I want to do this. Auditioned again and was put into a training group, and then it was canceled the day of. And then like I found myself at a different studio that wasn't like, it was more performance based. It wasn't quite rhythm. Like there's TVs that you could see the
Yeah.
metrics, and but it was with Taylor, who owns Vault, formerly Wheelhouse, and I paid my dues, 6 a.m., 4 people, twice a week, no sleep because you're just anxious. And you just keep going. You just keep going. Like it's those rejections, I think, and the no's or the not right nows that show you like, do I really want this? Like, am I willing to come back and be humble and still say I want it, and like push your ego to the side and be like, I'm not going anywhere. So yeah, I just loved chatting with you today. And I had to cancel the first time we did this, reschedule, like an emergency. And so that's actually the perfect like metaphor for this whole thing and what we're talking about. So I'm like, that doesn't mean we're not going to talk.
No. I'm
I
also slack at responding. I was like, oh God, that email, I haven't done this. I hope she doesn't think I'm being rude.
No, no. And I'm manifesting that one day we will ride together. I'll
Oh,
be hopefully be coached by you and make it to North
and vice
Carolina.
versa.
Yeah.
I need
Yeah.
you to stand up in front of my bike, like,
Yeah.
okay, let's go.
I'll play Will You Be There, and we'll just be crying and weeping together. Um, thank you
Go.
so much, Alicia. And for everybody, go follow her, go take her rides. You'd be lucky to meet her. Thanks again.
Thanks, Hannah.
Thanks for listening all the way to the end of the Yes You Can podcast. If you loved this one, I would so appreciate a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. That lets others know that, hey, this is a good podcast and it's worthwhile to listen to. If you really loved it, make sure to share with somebody you love who could benefit from a little magic and motivation in their lives. Thanks so much, friends, and have a great day.